Welcome to Simple Healthy Life, where our goal is to have real, insightful conversations on topics that we find interesting. And today, MJ, I figured we'd talk a little bit about this topic that's come up for me, I guess, in some of my reflections. But it would be the difference between discipline and punishment. And the reason why I kind of combine them into this as a topic is because I think people often view self-punishment and self-punishment actions or actions rooted in self-punishment. They package that up and brand it as discipline, and then wonder why things are so hard, right? Wonder why they can't do the actions that are most serving to them. And so I know that you work with plenty of clients on things that require an amount of discipline or focus, such as moving, going to the gym, strength training, all that kind of stuff. But what are your thoughts on discipline based on what you see people struggle with?
It's interesting. I think actually, from a discipline perspective, a lot of my clients use me. They say things like, I'm not disciplined enough to go to the gym by myself, which I think it's kudos to them to say, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay somebody to be at the gym, and now I have to make sure that I go to the gym to meet them. Mm-hmm. Essentially, that's what most of my clients are now. They just want to make sure that they get there 2 or 3 days a week in, and they know that they might not go as consistently if they don't have somebody there. Now, they're very disciplined and willing to put in the work once they get there, and I think most of us are. A lot of times, I notice that people use fitness classes for that same thing. And they're like, I'm really not disciplined enough to go to the gym and put myself through a workout, me. So what I'll do is I'll just take a class. And I know the class starts at 6, so I know I have to be there at 6, and then we'll do that. Of course, there are lots of opportunities to just skip all of it. Just not go to the class, tell your trainer you're not going to be there. And I think that what people do after that is then they get into the punishing themselves aspect. Well, I didn't go to the gym today, so I'm not going to eat.
Right.
Or I didn't go to the gym today, so I'm not going to do this thing that maybe they enjoy.
Perfect. Yeah. Actions rooted in this like repayment, this moral repayment. I didn't act accordingly yesterday, last week, last year, last decade. So I'm going to make up for that. And I would basically call that punishment. That's trying. The idea makes sense, I think, to people, especially if they were punished when they were younger for things, right?
Oh, I was just going to say, doesn't this kind of go back to our belief system? Like when you're younger, right? Like you didn't do something, so then what do your parents do? They go, well, I have to make sure you do the right thing, so I'm going to punish you, or, make you not have dessert, right? Whatever that. It's a one for me. So there's a specifically one that can be taken away from me to make me feel punished.
Right. And see the problem here is that then you start these new actions, whether it's eating better or moving or whatever, you try to attempt these new actions, building new habits, but the basis is in fear. The basis is this kind of like, well, if I don't do this, then XYZ happens, and that's not great. And what a perfect way to not learn something. What a perfect way for your brain to like embrace avoidance of that, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it makes total sense. Like if you decide you're going to go to the gym, I'm going to the gym because I don't want to be fat. I don't want to be out of shape. I don't want to die young. I don't want, like, all the benefits, right? Or I go to the gym in order to better myself. It serves me to go to the gym. I feel better, stronger. I also know that it's going to cause me to live longer and have a healthier, happier life. There's 2 ways to look at it, right? And I would argue that the people that look at it the first way, I go to the gym because I don't want to be, are much less consistent. than the people that look at it the second way and say, I go to the gym because it serves me and it's my way of doing something good for myself.
Right, right. Yeah. Discipline. I mean, you can interchange that word. Discipline kind of has this like weird negative connotation to it, right? Like,
It's interesting. When you broached the topic for me with discipline, that word, I immediately thought, especially because you said, kind of discipline versus punishment, right? Discipline and punishment almost could be intertwined, right? But then there's also like the discipline that leads to freedom, right? Like, and feeling that delayed gratification. I think we talked about Marcus Aurelius, right? He talked about during his book, The Meditations, discipline leads to freedom through delayed gratification, through bettering oneself. And so this is an interesting word, discipline.
right. Yeah. And you also have these kind of influencery type people who, like Goggins, like, you just got to be disciplined enough to do XYZ, and that's that. And yeah, the more that I understand about him, it does seem like he has a complex way of viewing these things, and it's articulated and shown quite poorly for some people. But I think, if a system works for someone, then that's great. But it doesn't appear to me that it's really working, because every time I hear him talk, it's very self-degrading almost in some ways. And
if Goggins was sitting in the room right now, and maybe if you're listening, come on our podcast, because I'd love to talk. I think that, and especially people that they read his book and they do these things, they look at him and they say, wow, what a courageous person. And look at all the miles he runs and the pull-ups he does. And he was able to write a book, and now he's famous and he's on these things and he does all this stuff. But ask him through the underlying book and podcast, all the stuff you hear him on, he's a man who genuinely does not like himself.
Right.
Even the version of him that he is now. And he would tell you that, I believe. So, yeah, discipline for him is punishment. Right. It's he's punishing himself. He talks about it in all of his stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think that comes through a lot. I almost see discipline as emerging from self-respect, and punishment emerging from self-punishment, or self-rejection, rather.
Well said.
So punishment comes from self-rejection, and discipline comes from self-respect. So giving an action rooted in discipline would be one that is, of course, like we talked about, future facing. So I'll sacrifice this now, my present moment, comfort, the comfort that I have in my present moment. I'll sacrifice that now for future me, because future me is worth it, right? Whereas punishment is this, I don't like myself now, and I don't like how I've been in the past. I made all these mistakes. And so I kind of have to repay the debt. I have to repay with this like kind of moral infusion that I wasn't good enough, so let me do X, Y, and Z, either for myself or for the world. And so I think for myself, I've made a shift over the last, I don't know, however long it's been. But a lot of the stuff that I do now is so rooted in this self-care, this like future self. I don't really find myself repaying a lot of debts because I did something wrong. And maybe some of that comes from I'm forgiving of myself much more now, and I care about my future self, and I'm often willing to sacrifice in the moments. And, some days better than others, of course, but I think it feels a lot better to be in this future-facing perspective. In fact, the brain learns better from a future-facing perspective, right? Whereas we've talked about punishment is this like motivation is kind of fused with fear, and of course, then your brain is going to say, "Well, I don't want to do this habit. That's a scary thing. That stresses me out," right? Whereas future-facing kind of engages that like prefrontal cortex, that planning and strategic kind of approach, that logical approach that feels very safe to us. So how we shift perspectives is very important.
Do you think that, I mean, I know you have have had thousands of conversations with people that have, that are challenged by their eating. Do you think that you've learned some of this over time through discussions with them?
Oh yeah, yeah. I learn more from my clients than they learn from me. 100%.
Yeah, it makes sense to me because I mean, I keep thinking about the big one for me is when it comes to discipline versus punishment is food. Right, like I should probably be sitting across from me more than once every couple of weeks, but I know that I could say, man, I don't really want to have this now because I don't necessarily feel that great when I do. But my reason for not eating it is, well, because I'm not happy that I'm overweight, or I'm not happy that I already ate. Yes, I had too much yesterday or the day before. It's never like, well, this doesn't really serve me, so I'm not going to have it. It's always a punishment.
Right.
And it's always, what's the word I'm looking for? Like taking something away. Like it's like taking it away from me because I don't deserve it.
Right.
It's never like, I'm just not going to have it. It's because it doesn't serve me to have it.
Right, exactly. Food is the perfect scapegoat for punishment in a lot of ways. And you can't blame people. I never blame people for their actions rooted in punishment when it comes to food. I mean, all of ours are in some ways, and we're taught that, right? And it makes a lot of good sense for someone to say, well, I feel like I overate yesterday, so I'm going to punish myself and not eat appropriately today. But the problem is that when do you actually ever get to work on healthful eating habits, ones that are rooted in future facing, right? I'm going to respect myself today, so I'm not going to have the additional ice cream when I'm full, and tomorrow I'll feel a little bit better, right? We don't actually ever get to practice that. And so people often navigate food in this very tumultuous, like filled with friction way, and that's really hard because the whole point of eating well is so that you feel better. But people often see eating well as this, I haven't done it for the last year, so I have to make sure that I do something especially well because yesterday or last year was bad. But if you view it from this perspective of, well, I'm gonna avoid the food that I know is probably not right for me in this moment, so that tomorrow feels good, or so that I have enough energy, or whatever it ends up being. And it's a perfect way to practice some of these more discipline-oriented behaviors of the positive behavior development.
What about this concept of you can't out-discipline your environment, or it's unlikely for you to be able to out-discipline your environment? And I'll give an example that hopefully not many of us can relate to, but it's more likely than not that everybody knows someone that had this challenge. That person in your life, they got addicted to something, we'll just call it drugs. And they so badly want to quit. But they've surrounded themselves with all people that were doing drugs with them. And their environment is almost exclusively made up of these people that were doing these drugs with them. And now they can't out-discipline their environment. Mm-hmm. And I'm using a kind of a heavy example, but I think that there's a million ways we could use another one, right? Like you get home after work and you want to go to the gym, but you get home and every day you say, I'm going to go to the gym after I eat dinner with my family. And then every day, lighthearted one, every day your kids are there and they want to play with you. Right? But you have this desire to go to the gym and you say, I know it's better for me and I want to be disciplined about it. But every day you end up in the same environment. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about that type of stuff? Like, how do you, number one, acknowledge that I guess I'll start by saying, I think we pretend that we can, like we're tougher, we're better, where I'm disciplined, I can do these things. But then, you look back after 2, 3, 4, 5 months go by and you're like, wow, I didn't. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to that problem that we're never in as much control as we think we are. right? And that's such a game changer. It's such a game changer of a thought. And I know that was one for me, it's a tough one, right? Like I don't necessarily want to be going through my day thinking that I have not there's not significant conscious input there. But it's true, even the most mindful person is what, 30%, maybe just rough numbers, but 30% there making their decisions. Everything else is totally your environment. It's how your brain responds and reacts. It's emotional. There's no basis in logic or self-serving perspectives. It's all autopilot. And so it's a scary thought to think that you're not even driving the ship that you're in. But you do have some ability to change the environment, and that's contextual stuff. That's really important, right? This is why like we have conversations on social media and the people that you hang out with and even what your home is kind of set up like, right? It's such a simple tip, but they've done plenty of studies on food, diet, and environment, and what you'd expect is exactly what happens in a lot of those studies is that the people who have fruit and good, healthy choices out on the counter, and maybe the ones that are less frequent choices packed away in the cabinets behind closed doors, you choose the fruit more often, right? We're creatures of our environment and creatures of habit and creatures of context. And so when you change the external, then your brain acts in the way that you probably want it to act, right? So one, recognizing like, hey, I'm not in control, and that's scary, but you have to recognize that to then move forward. And then two, is there a way to regain some control, right? And we've talked about, I mean, that's mindfulness to a T. That's why mindfulness is so helpful. I think if someone really wanted to build a great habit, a new great habit, the best way that they could do that is by simply taking 15 minutes in the morning and reflecting on, perhaps we'll call it resolve, right? I really want to eat healthfully, right? I'll take that one just because it's easy. Well, not to do it easy, but it's an easy topic for me, right? I'm gonna in the morning, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna brush my teeth. Before I do anything else, I'm gonna sit there in a comfortable spot, and I'm gonna literally reflect on what it might feel like to eat a healthy snack. We'll start there. What is it like to eat a healthy snack? Well, maybe that looks like a little bit of protein, a little bit of carbohydrates. Maybe it's kind of balanced. Maybe it's something that I've prepared in some way. Maybe it's not just a bag of chips off the counter. And then I'm going to sit there and I'm going to think about how it would feel to actually do that action. And it's 15 minutes. And then guess what? When the time comes for a snack, you're probably 10 times more likely to actually do that action just because you thought about it. You didn't just go into your day and the kids and work and this and that, and then the snack crept up on you, and then you're hungry, and then it's like, I have nothing planned. I haven't even thought about it. And then that's when those decisions happen that don't serve you. So that's what I would suggest for someone looking to develop a healthful regimen, starting small, but thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, here's the challenge. That requires discipline, right? And what would you do if you forgot or you skipped a day? What would you do next? Would you punish yourself and say, I didn't do my 15 minutes of reflection this morning, so now I'm not going to do something else, right? Like, or take something away, or right? It's kind of the same wheel that we end up on. Right? Can you be disciplined enough to do this action? But can you root that action in, to your point, this forward-facing, this serves me behavior? Or are you rooting that action in, I need to do this because I'm so tired of not eating good, and I tell myself every day I'm going to do good, so I need to do this. If that's the way that you're going to approach it, more likely than not, you're going to skip the 15-minute reflection. If you're approaching it, again, to your point, as, man, when I do this 15-minute reflection, I tend to make better choices throughout the day. So here's a way where I know I can better myself. you're more likely than not you're gonna start to add that in. And we're all fallible, right? Let's face it, that we'll all miss days, and we'll all miss them probably right away. Because I mean, we've talked about this in length. Adding anything to your life is we all live these very full lives, and even our downtime now is filled with something. So can we be disciplined to do something like that? I think so. I think that for me, I'm grateful that I've been able to add in a meditation practice. And while I don't do it every morning at the same time, I get it in every day. But it's because I see it as something that helps me. I find myself feeling better. Also, it's kind of a nice, fun way to take a break for me. Like, I mean, my schedule is such that I'm not the best first thing in the morning. Like, I'm like up, brush my teeth. If I could pee in the shower, I would. Like, just like 1, 2, 3 out of the house in 15 minutes with my coffee, and then I'm in front of people from basically 5:30 in the morning till noon. And yeah, I'm basically on autopilot.
Yeah.
I'm having conversations. I'm focused on others. And then right around noonish, a lot of days, I'll get a little bit of downtime. And that's when I'll try to say, okay, if I do this meditation, if I do this stillness, if I do this stop, I'm much better for the rest of the day.
Right. But that's the healthy thought right there, is that one right there. It's just having, wow, when I do X, Y, Z, I feel so much better. Right.
Yeah. So I've learned that about myself. And I think that other people, we're having this conversation because it is possible. It is possible to have a habit, to be disciplined. But I think you hit it best, right? It's the perspective on the topic, right? If you're being a certain way as punishment, and you might call it discipline, if you're disciplining yourself, right? I think that's the difference, right? Maybe we hit the nail on the head. Discipline, you can be disciplined, or are you disciplining yourself, right? If you're disciplining yourself, that comes from that punishment, that I did something wrong, I need to make up for it, then moral. Or I'm being disciplined so that I don't have to discipline myself. I'm being disciplined so that my future self will be happy with me.
Right. Do your thoughts feel respectful, or do they feel rejection, like self-rejection? Is it self-rejection, or is it self-respect? Right. And you brought up a good point there too, that even some basic actions require discipline, like to take the 10 minutes and to reflect on what might be good habits for you to pursue through the day. But then I would argue maybe we start small, emotionally small, right? What is a very simple action that you don't even care all that much about that you could practice, right?
What about brushing your teeth?
It's a good one.
Right? So what are you thinking of yourself when you brush your teeth? There's probably a few different things, right? And this goes back to that belief system. When you were taught to brush your teeth, were you taught to brush your teeth as punishment? Like, oh, you had all that candy, now go brush your teeth. Or you got to brush your teeth so your teeth don't run out of your head. Or you got to brush your teeth because I told you to. That was the one I was taught to, by the way. Sorry, Mom. Or are you brushing your teeth because it's an action of self-love? And this is where your digestive system starts. And this is how you can keep those bad germs out of your body. And these are the things that, that your dentist would talk to you about. Like, what's your reason for it?
I mean, not everyone brushes their teeth regularly. I can be the first to attest, not myself, but a lot of people find that very challenging because for reasons we'll get into in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that one, if you're doing it twice a day, pretty regularly, it has to be rooted in care. It has to. Every long-standing habit that is self-serving is rooted in self-serving thoughts, right? There's no adult who's going through life brushing their teeth twice a day saying, I don't know why I'm doing this. My mom told me to do this 30 years ago. And no, you're like, well, my breath will smell good. I don't want it to smell bad. And want to keep my teeth because that's kind of important. It's just a good thing to do, right?
Right.
And a lot of people do it just fine. It takes time for many of us, but that's why.
So is there another one? You got another one?
Another good like habit?
Yeah.
Well, I know one that people struggle with is going to bed on time, going to bed at a respectable hour for tomorrow's you, right?
I am so not relatable to this topic, but I'm listening.
Yeah.
Yes, I know they're out there.
Yeah.
Go on.
There's plenty of people. Yeah, there's plenty of people who, especially when you have a long day and maybe you don't necessarily like how you spend your day. You're kind of doing your 9 to 5, and you don't really like that. That you've got obligations afterwards, and then everyone goes to sleep, and it's 10 p.m. and you have 2 hours to yourself, 3 hours to yourself. It's peaceful. It's quiet. You could do anything you want. No one's gonna bother you. No one's gonna call you. It's a nice time for people to say, well, I could spend this nice 3 hours doing whatever I want and just relax, right? But the problem with that is then it bleeds into the next day, and then you feel quite poor through the morning, and then you repeat the cycle. You had a poor day, and then you're finally like in this place of being able to relax at night, and here we go again, right? And it's hard for a lot of people.
I believe you.
Yeah.
I choose to sleep.
Yeah, you like your sleep.
No problem. Oh, I have 3 hours to myself. Oh, I think I could sleep. That's my style.
Yeah.
But no, I do. Actually, a lot of people that I interact with will say the same thing. They're like, oh, I couldn't go to sleep, or I couldn't fall asleep, or my mind was this, or my mind was that. A lot of times people come to me specifically because they feel as though there's an opportunity to relax, and I can teach them a little bit about how to relax. The crazy part for me, and this is me, not everybody, but if I go into like some like slow, intentional breathing before bed, I'm asleep before I even realize what I'm doing. And I feel like it's wild for people to not have that reaction. Like, now, I do think a lot of people are afraid to try, or they won't. They're like, oh, this doesn't work. This is stupid. But if I set my clock for 5 minutes and just go into my slow breathing, again, I'm asleep before the clock goes off.
Yeah.
I think it's a superpower.
Yeah, the breathing one is a good example even throughout the day. I know that we've talked about it plenty of times, but seriously, one of the most impactful, emotionally regulating habits that I've developed over the last 2 years is simply one big inhale, one slow, long exhale. And you do it a couple times, you just try it, right? Keep an open mind. What if it does work, right? We know the reasons why it works physiologically. It slows down your heart rate. It slows down your respiratory rate. Obviously, that's what you're doing, and that then calms the mind and tells your body, like, hey, things aren't super crazy right now. We don't need to be running or fighting right now. And once you do it, you say, well, maybe that did something, and then you try it again. You try it again. And then eventually you start to recognize, wow, this is pretty good. And then you do it just because it helps, right? There are days I'm just driving. I'm like, nice long exhale. And you can feel it. And then I'll demonstrate it to people. And then as I demonstrate it, I'm like, ooh, I feel calm.
Yes. I do like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
So I think that from a discipline versus punishment perspective, I think we kind of unboxed really what that is. And as we're having this discussion, and again, we don't practice these discussions beforehand, as hopefully everybody can tell. Like, I would ask the audience to think for a second, like, how often are you confusing the two, discipline versus punishment? How often are you punishing yourself in a way that you were punished as a kid? Right? I really struggle when people that talk about everything goes back to childhood trauma and all this stuff. There's more to it. There's something there. There's lots to it. And if you want to address it, you'll find a lot of it is. But how often are you acting that way? Right? And is it time enough now where you can grow up enough to say, this doesn't serve me. I'm choosing to be disciplined for my future self so that my future self doesn't have to discipline my previous self. Makes sense.
Yeah, perfect sense. Distinguishing where you fit, right? Which habit are you doing that feels like self-rejection, or which one feels like self-respect? And I have a little bit of an actionable guideline for developing this as well. So to develop a little bit more discipline that's, actions rooted in self-care, self-respect would be one, rewrite the story. So tell yourself that whatever action that you're doing is worth the investment. We use the teeth brushing example. Obviously worth the investment to brush your teeth for many people. For some people, that's not obvious. And so you had to find your motivation there. It's obvious to many, but if it's not obvious to you, then think about it. Reflect upon why brushing your teeth might be a good thing for you, or going to bed on time, or eating well, or moving your body, right? Got to know. So you got to rewrite the story. The second part would be to separate shame from your standards. So if you missed a workout, for example, or something happened and you weren't able to eat well, or whatever it is, it's not because you're lazy, right? It's not a character trait. Everyone struggles with these things. But maybe you just tell yourself, well, I missed the mark today. Here's what I'll do tomorrow, maybe to prevent that. Maybe I'll pack a little bit better for work, or maybe I'll lay my clothes out at night for tomorrow for the workout, right? It's seeking solutions rather than just, again, self-rejecting, okay? The third thing would be to switch your goals from being very outcome oriented. So instead of needing to lose X amount of pounds to then accept yourself, be the person who moves daily. Be the person who eats fairly well, right? Punishment-oriented behaviors are very like number and result driven, and they also likely are motivated by this need to prove. I need to prove it. I need to prove it to you. I need to prove it to my parents. I need to prove it to myself. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to do the things that's good for you, right? You need to respect yourself. And then you mentioned it about acknowledging small wins, right? Wow, when I brush my teeth, people seem to get closer to me.
More kissing.
I got more kisses. Or when I went to bed on time, I feel better the next day. Or when I ate well, I felt more energized, or whatever it might be. You have to reflect on those wins. You even said about the when you started reflecting on during the middle of the day and assessing how the day should probably go, you felt better, right? But that only happened because you reflected. You could do the thing and not reflect, and then not gain the positive insight there. They're small little things. They're small. Like, that's so small, but it's so impactful at the same time. And then forgive yourself faster. That's the last one. If you make a mistake, you're human. You're going to make a mistake. So forgive yourself and then move on. It's a new day.
One more.
Sure.
I think it's also important, and that is, and really address and assess your environment. If you're trying and failing, and you've done these things, these are self-serving. You've done those things. Really address that, right? And we'll go with the heartfelt, friendly one, right? You want to go to the gym after work, but your environment is that you go home, you make dinner for the family, and then it's really just tough to get there, right? Like, can you change that? Can you go before you go home, right? Can you figure out a way to do something different in order to impact your environment so that you can still do these actions that serve you?
Can you do it at home?
Can you do it at home? Can you sling around the kids a little more and feel like you got to work out, whatever that is, right? But really make sure that it's not your environment that's holding you back.
Right. Awesome. Great addition. Yeah. Context so important. All right. So if you are looking for more, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things on this podcast as time goes on. So you know the drill. Give us a follow, give us a like, whatever the interactions are there on Spotify. We enjoy them. And then we will catch you next time.